Hello, BookTube. It's time for me to stick my toe in the OGBG books haul wars. I've got a small haul here. It is mail, so it's not quite the same as going out to a shop. We are still in lockdown here at the UK, and everything is closed, so it's verboten to get to a bookshop. So I've been shopping online and spending too much time online looking for stuff. But that's uh, I've got a lot of free time on my hands at the moment, and I've been spending the time sort of creating a few lists of things of must books that I want, and a few areas that I've neglected for a while to make lists. And then the problem is when I do that, I invariably find something on that's good prices. So I've done that with three items, but I got five books in total here. Two of them are, or at least one is for a buddy read coming up with Mark Richardson and Scott at the Bookish Bryants, and that is Dan Simmons' Hyperion. This was originally published in 1989, and I read this in 91, 92, along with its sequel. Well, it's not really a sequel, The Fall of Hyperion. Dan Simmons has always maintained that it's not four books in the cantos, it's two books. But because of publishing constraints and the size of books, they had to be published in two different well, not editions, but two different books for each part. And it just consecutively got larger and larger and larger with the final volume, Endymion, The Rise of Endymion, at over 800 pages for this size of book. But no, I read these two. And I got these two because for the buddy read, and I don't know, nothing's been mentioned about the Fall of Hyperion, but I figured I might as well get it with this because I will not be stopping with this, and I will definitely go on to this one even if it's not part of the buddy read, because they do go together, and they need to be read together. So I read these again, as I say, the 91, 92 period. That was a period that I was financially constrained, to say the least, while going to university. I did my field school and worked in Jordan, doing archaeology, and I came back in September to go to class, and I found that because I used up sort of grants and things like that a little too much over the previous summers doing archaeological field work, I didn't get as much as I was expecting to. So I barely had money to pay for tuition and not even fully rent, let alone food. So I subsisted by buying books for 10 cents out of a dime bin, it's called, and then walking around to another bookshop and selling as many as I can for $1 or $1.50. And that worked out. I was able to subsist and get food and get reading material for myself. They weren't so much interested in the science fiction, but that was sort of what I did for myself, and read what I had on my shelf, which was hundreds and hundreds of, if not thousands of science fiction digests, analog, you name it, Galaxy, Asimov, magazine of fantasy and science fiction, on and on and on. I had huge runs of these. And I bought probably every week at least 10 to 15 at 10 cents each of old books. And these two came up in rough copies. I'd not heard of them. And so I bought them along with everything else. And these were the highlights, I think, of that reading experience, because I doing that for about a year. I read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I mean, literally hundreds of science fiction books. And it was that, and P.G. Wodehouse was sort of my saving, sort of keep me sane while I went to university and couldn't afford anything else or do anything else. I had to walk several miles to my classes as well. Um, and especially that was over the winter, and then in the spring I started getting a little bit of work. But yeah, I just I just went through everything that I could find there. But these were gems, and I knew they were gems once I read them, and I loved them. And somehow I discarded them, I suppose, because they were really bad shape. They were falling apart, I think, by the time I reread them. Don't know how many times they'd been read. Um, and then around 1999, 2000, I discovered that he wrote two others, or well, the what turned out to be the one, Endymion and the Rise of Endymion. And I purchased those, plus I rebought these, reread these, and plowed on through Endymion. And that was sort of the first real sort of read of it, and all the way through. And then 2000, and then when I ordered these, I realized on Amazon it had, when I bought this last, was in 2010, from Amazon. And that was when I read it through again, the whole cantos. Plus, at that time, I read the individual short stories. Uh, there's two short stories. Well, there's two that they're not really important so much. They're interesting if somebody's really interested in this. One was almost like he wrote it, and I forget what period it covers, but it's a chapter or so in Hyperion, and he changed slight bits of it and rewrote it, I think, for the book. But there was also another one that was like a proto Hyperion type story that had some of the themes and everything. So that was done. And then he later, after A Rise of Endymion, he wrote, I think it was a special collection, like Far Horizons, I think it might have been a special collection of authors writing sort of sequels or little short stories to larger works that they did. And he did another one for the Hyperion Cantos, taking place 300 years or so after the rise of Endymion. So yeah, I'm gonna have to try to locate those eventually too. But I plan on rereading all this. But anyway, so I'm really pleased to do this. I know it's been going around a little while, and I'm thinking, oh, it's about time I reread this. And I realized that, well, I've been doing it so far every decade, so it's about time. 2021 is about time to reread it. And Hyperion and Fall Hyperion. This will be the fourth reading of it. Wow. Uh, and I always, every time I read something like this, I see more into it, more depth. So, but anyway, enough about science fiction, if we can get enough. Um, there, as I say, I've had time on my hands, so I've been searching for things. Like there's areas that, even though I've got, like, I got shelves full of books, I got piles of books everywhere. There's still areas that I want to flesh out, I want to read more about, and I get into sort of certain area. And so I've been searching for a few things, because after being made redundant, I started getting back into watching films. So watching films gets me back into wanting to read about silent film and so forth. So, and there's two areas of silent film that I've been very excited about for decades, but have rarely found any books on, and that's Swedish silent film and Chinese silent film. And I was looking for both, but I found two books that were very reasonably priced, that are Swedish, silent film orientated. The first one that I found, because I was seeing if there was a biography of Victor Seastrom, and he was sort of the one of the sort of pioneers of Swedish film. And but this is not so much a biography, and not so much to do with his Swedish films. This has to do with his 9 American films that he made in Hollywood from 1923 to 1930. And the cover is, I believe that's Lon Chaney, yeah, and uh, what was it called? He who gets slapped, I think it is. Yeah. That might be one or two of the only ones that I've seen of his American films, because they're not available or very very difficult to see. But I thought, yes, I definitely want this. Amazon, like I found it on Amazon, but it was out of stock. They didn't have it. I think the cover price was like 25 or 30 pounds or something like this. So I looked at the third party sellers, and I found that not Amazon, a Book Depot had one that was for 11.98, I think it was. Well, that's a good price. Let me look into this more. It is short, like it's not even 150 pages long. So I hummed and hawed a little bit. Then I thought, well, yeah, I scratched back my head, and I think, no, I better check Book Depot's website just to make sure, because sometimes there are cheaper items on there directly from them. And yes, this was £6.60 free shipping. So yes, I went into my basket and bought immediately, and it turns out to be a series of books that have, there's three plus pages here of the series, and there's probably about a half a dozen that I'm interested in for subject wise, which again will be on my to search list for really cheap copies, and good, pretty good bibliography that's 3 pages long for the size of it. It's written by Bo Florin, and the full title, I'll get around to that. Transition and Transformation, Victor Seastrom in Hollywood, 1923 to 1930. And this is published by the Amsterdam University Press in 2013. And I'm very pleased to get this. So, and this is going to be bumped up, I think, on my reading list fairly soon, because he did a Lillian Gish film called The Wind, and I do have excuse me, I do have a copy of that, sort of a DVD-R copy, and I've also got the He Who Gets Slapped in a DVD-R copy, so I can watch both of those after reading this. But while I was searching for this, one of the recommendations was another book on Swedish film called Masculinity in the Golden Age of Swedish Cinema, A Cultural Analysis of 1920s Film by Tommy Gustafsson. I just mispronounced that, I'm sure of that. It's a McFarlane publication, and I do like them. This looks like it could be an original paperback. Soft cover, but it's 2014. And the cover price is like £46. And it's like 250 pages. And it's like, ooh, interesting, but too much. So I started looking around for things, like on Abe. Well, first to find out whether I could find a hardcover, but I couldn't seem to, nothing popped up for hardcover. But anyway, I found this on Amazon again for, I think it was £5 with shipping, and it's brand new. It's a new copy. Like I wouldn't even call it as new. I would say it's a new copy. And I'm just so pleased to get it. So that's another reading that will be done. And it's got these covers. I was just looking at that. Like, I don't know if you can see that, where, yeah, you can see just me holding it up here is like left this sort of, because there's always oil on your fingers, and I hate these covers that are sort of, they're silky smooth and they feel good, but they're not good for handling. But anyway, the last book to show here, again, I've mentioned that I've been reading, I'm pulling out my sort of movie review books, movie criticism, and reading a lot of stuff by the writers that I have, and I've got a few more, but I've been searching for other ones, just find out what I really want, the sort of 1920s and 30s but they seem to be a little difficult to find. Um, and it's but I found a number that I had to put on a list, and surprisingly, which, well, it's not surprising, I suppose, but I found quite a few volumes in the Library of America series. I have the James Agee volume of film from Library of America, but I find out that, like, Susan Sontag did film reviews as well. Even H.L. Mencken did film reviews, and there's like 3 volumes of his sort of journalistic writing, which I'm sure will have those in that are in Library of America, which I'd love to get at some point. Uh, there's other names that I wasn't familiar with that I would like to get, and this one popped up. I never heard of him before. Manny Farber. It's this Farber on film, the complete film writings of Manny Farber, edited by Robert Polito. And this is a Library of America book, but it's got it's got the colorful jacket, so it didn't really throw me when I saw pictures of it. And then I searched on Abe, and I found this copy for around £8 or £8 something with shipping, and I just thought, well, yeah, they didn't have a photo of it, so I ordered it. It said that it was as new, so I took a gander on it, in other words. And it's come. It is that. There's a bit of damage at the bottom of the spine, but I think that was done during shipping with poor packaging. But the other thing that's strange is that it's got sort of a I call it the plasticized pictorial cover and back, but it is a Library of America. And it seems that this was something I'm totally unaware of. This was put out in 2009, and it says that it's a special publication of the Library of America. I didn't know there were such things. But because of the price, and like I say, I splurged on this one. It's not something that I should have got, but I couldn't find any of the other ones on that were reasonable price that I was willing to pay for. And none of them sort of fit the 20s and 30s period really at all. I'm yet to find a collection that would do that, unless it's, well, that would be the H.L. Mencken, I suppose, would cover that area, but I don't know how much he actually did. I have to look into that. But anyway, this is also, it says, distributed to the trade by Penguin Group. So it's a little odd, but I'm very pleased with this. And this, it seems that this is sort of 40s into the 50s and upwards. So that'll be interesting to read. Just looking at the, it's not all reviews either. It's there are other pieces like essays that he had written on film, but it's like page after page after page. What's it, the date wise? Where does it start here? Yeah, 1942 to 47. So yeah, so it's early enough. So it does cover a period, and then it's 57 to 77. So it looks like he ends sort of writing in 77. So it's not so bad. At least half of it covers definitely the year of the years that I want. At least half, no more than half, about 2/3 of it. So I'm very pleased with this. So there's my book haul. And if that inflames the wars, well, so be it. Uh, I have to get books where I can at the moment and as cheap as possible. But so it's now, I don't know who's next, but I'll see you later, BookTube. Thank you.